first meeting without masks.
President Ferguson,
Here?
Vice President Gerard,
Here.
Councilmember Fagan,
Here?
Councilmember Cresser, here, Councilmember Stevens,
Here.
Mayor Gerard, Manager Snyder, here, or Solicitor Harper, here.
Alright, item number 1, motion to approve the agenda for March 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Stevens, second by Councilor Cresser. Any changes? Yeah, no, I always have to think about that. So for years I pronounced it wrong. I wish John would have said something. So. Any changes or updates?
The only update I will bring to your attention is at your places, ordinance 545 for outdoor dining in the court commercial. There's an updated draft. It's the same draft that was in your packets. It's just when it got sent by email, the red lines were taken out of it. So it was hard to see if the corrections were already done or they were changed. So the version at your places has the red line physically through the red writing, so you could tell that it was taken out of the ordinance.
Yeah, I got a little confused by that when I was reading it. I was like,
Yeah,
wait, should these be crossed out or, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Alright, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 2, public input. Anyone from the public who would like to speak, please stand, raise your hand, and state your address. Alright, we'll go to item number 3, announcements.
The next council meeting is March 16th, 2022. That's the regular meeting at 7:30 PM here in council chambers. Product is scheduled to meet Wednesday, March 23rd at 8 AM here in council chambers. The next planning commission meeting is scheduled for April 4th, 2022 at 7 PM here in council chambers. And the Hatfield Museum and Historical Society is scheduled to meet Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022 at 7 PM at the Hatfield Volunteer Fire Company.
Item number 4, reports from standing committees and the mayor. Budget, finance, and labor. Jamie, can you substitute committees, please? Since I missed that last meeting.
Sure, so, for Budget, Finance, and Labor, we have a meeting scheduled on, March 10th, 2022. We'll be meeting. The only update at this time was we have decided, between the committee that we will relax the masking policies in the borough office and require that, or state that masks are now optional. That was decided, moving forward based on the county, buildings as well. Everything is optional, as well as most of the school districts in the area. So masking will now be optional, in our municipal building as well as public works.
Planning, budget, and zoning.
When the building is in,
Okay.
yes, we have the outdoor dining ordinance later on the agenda, and other than that, I don't have anything to work on.
Okay. Public safety?
We just have the update from the results of the, Edgewood Drive, speeding there.
Trevor's good.
Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, when you look at the numbers compared to how many were actually speeding, there's not enough to actually do anything. And as Lieutenant Robinson had stated before, that a lot of times in the morning, that the officers are in the school zones watching for the speeding in the school zones. So we thought in the committee that it was wise to have them in the school zones rather than sitting out on Edgewood.
So, I mean, based on the numbers, that 85% threshold, it sounds like that's still below the speed limit in that area.
Correct.
Okay, okay. So from that, I'm assuming that there's no recommendations to do anything on that street as of now?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
The numbers didn't look bad, but it's so scary to think that somebody's going 54 miles an hour down the street.
Do you know what bumps out there or something? So, it might be a good idea, and if you'd recommend that, we can go ahead and put, maybe just do a quick summary and put that on the website so people will know that we did the traffic study?
Sure.
Okay.
Who doesn't take care of that? I will send it to both of you guys for review prior to posting it on the website.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mayor
we just,
too.
yeah, we just highlighted something about the residents on Edgewood Drive, so they, people will know to pay attention to that, so.
Yep, I'll do a quick summary and I'll send it to the committee.
Super, okay, cool. Thank you for that, by the way. As you said, some residents who were out canvassing were commenting on that, so that's why we have to do it, so.
Yeah.
So that's great, good job, so. Yeah, because like you said, it's hard to tell, right, perception. It's a small number of cars, but everyone thinks it's a whole lot. And the study shows that it's not a whole lot, but it's still those few that catch your attention at 50-some miles an hour, so, yeah. Especially since there's a playground right there, so. Yeah. Good work. All right, Public Works and Property and Equipment.
I think I had much of an update since my tour with Steve last month. Really not a whole lot of update there.
Okay.
And I saw your report that you put in there, so there's a lot of details for what's going on.
Always lots of details.
Lots of details, right? But yeah, I was impressed with my tour. Steve showed me around and, very clean, very well organized. And, I was impressed with the operation, so they're doing a great job with that.
Good. Utilities Committee?
We have not really had a meeting. The only thing I asked was about the power outage that occurred on February 22nd. It was incrementally restored through the borough, and the final section was to be opened up from the electrical outage by 11:30 that night. Still don't know exactly how a truck could take that thing out unless he was he delivering to the pizzeria there?
So
Put that ball?
he was heading out of town on West Broad Street. And it gets a little confusing because I guess there's technically two West Broad Streets. There's what we call Little Broad, which is the street that cuts off towards Talmenton. And then West Broad Street technically still goes out till it becomes Point Road. So as I described in my report, he was going out of the borough into the township on West Broad Street, cut down Little Broad, and then made a right on Talmenton. Basically, he was trying to use that triangle there to turn around. And he missed a turn, I guess. I don't know for sure. As he came up to Talmenton on Little Broad, the lower hanging Verizon, Comcast, and communication wires got caught on his trailer. And he proceeded to go through. And by doing that, he pulled down the one pole. And lucky, there's no luck really, but luckily he only took down one pole. And situations have happened before like that were in front of your house, where they've taken down multiple poles. So, could have been worse.
So he caught the wire, not the pole. Because I kept trying to see how did the truck hit the pole, it's all the way inside, Okay.
I was in Vinny's parking lot typing up this report that's in your packet, and Vinny came over, I guess, to check on everything, and he pulled up the camera from his place on his phone, and he showed me everything. So I got a very, very good look at what happened. Plus, we had multiple eyewitnesses that were able to work with the police department to track down the individual.
So that person left the scene, right?
Yes.
Okay. And how quickly was that person identified?
Wasn't very long.
I'd have to look it up, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say within an hour, maybe.
Okay.
It took some investigating because all they had to go off of was, the eyewitness said, it said DOT on their truck. Well, in my line of work, we think of DOT numbers, which is Department of Transportation numbers, which commercial vehicles will have. So that's what I kind of got from that, but the police looked at as DOT as the trucking V. So they were able, I guess, use the firehouse cameras to see if they went that way, and they determined he did go around there, so they went to the logical places that tractor trailer could go if they had to go around the firehouse. And I guess they got them at the, Miracle at, Penn and Burton. So they tracked them down there.
So much for saying I'm doing the right thing, right?
You guys did a very good job getting everything back up again.
Thank you.
So, appreciate it. business, business of the month recognition. The list of businesses within the borough is being updated by Lindsay, and it is expected to be completed shortly. There was a discussion about adding photos of the owners of the various businesses of the month recognition, and this will be initiated in the next few months. We're planning for Earth Day celebration. The times for the borough celebration have been finalized. It will be held from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Saturday, April 23rd at Franconi Automotive. And after a brief board meeting this morning with the group, it was decided that there will be no on-site paper shredding, but secure containers will be provided for the drop-off only and will be available, and we will not be accepting air conditioners, TVs, or other hazmat items for recycling. People with those items will be directed to the Clean Earth facility at Hatfield Township for drop-off. In addition, no parking signs will be posted along East Lincoln Avenue, which will also be set up as a one-way westbound for the duration of the event. Social media, our Facebook page was very heavily used to alert residents to the situation with the electrical outage on February 22nd. And we will continue to use this as well as the borough website to alert people to various events and emergencies in the future. We are also exploring posting additional articles of general interest on the website by council members and other interested persons. The Borough Informer newsletter will not be published after March of this year. In its place, the new Borough magazine will be published twice a year, and articles also run on the Indian Valley Chamber of Commerce publication about the borough twice a year also. There was also a preliminary discussion that was held about the borough's upcoming sesquicentennial celebration in 2023, and whether it would be a separate celebration or something included in the annual Founders Day events. And members of the committee were asked to submit their thoughts as planning to begin in the next few months. And the only other thing, new business, the committee financial report was presented, and there was no change in the account balance for the committee since the last meeting. That's it.
What is the account?
Right now, around $3,400 and $4,500.
And then also under, we talked about the town hall. I saw the date posted on the website, and we started thinking about that and reaching out to those.
That might have been, I
From
don't
last year?
know, yeah, that's what it from last year, because we didn't talk about it this year. You and I talked about it a
Right,
little bit,
right.
of possibly having it that April 13th,
Okay.
that you and I discussed, but I was gonna put it on for a budget finance committee meeting next week.
Okay.
So it's just to see,
Okay.
because part of that meeting is possibly the presentation, as part of the utility committee, we were thinking could be part of that.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure, like I said, I saw the dates, and I wasn't sure, I must have missed a year, so
Yeah,
it's.
if we decide to move forward on that, I would like to then put together a meet and greet thing before, like we talked about, and, you know, have all the representatives.
Yeah, probably need to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, after we meet, let's plan on reaching out to them as soon as we can.
Yep.
Because we'll need to lock in those dates.
I'll have something already prepared, and I'll share it during the budget finance committee.
Okay.
As like an invitation.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That's it tonight.
All right. Dual Action Committee, in thinking about this, what I wanted to do is set up a date with, as many as council we can have without violating sunshine laws. Get Public Works, get Jamie and her team together, and start coming up with lists of things that we want to present to the township and talk to the township about. So, for those who aren't on the committee, if you have any ideas, email me, and then we'll start putting a list together. So, my thought is that we'll have that list together, then we can sit down with the township and kind of, have them put a list together, and then we can have something to talk to versus kind of spitballing, in a
You
meeting.
can have two,
Right, right.
because you have three, we gotta advertise.
Right. No, but that's what I'm saying, anyone who's not on the committee, go ahead and send me information.
Right.
So, and then we can, I'll sit down and meet with Steve and Jamie and start putting a list of things together. Alright. Mayor Gerard?
I just have a couple of things, two quick things. I'm changing my office hours on the first and third Thursday to 4:30 to to 6 P.M. And the second thing is, we have an upcoming, quarterly meeting of the North Line Road Recycling Commission on, April 14th. And we intend on, attending that, and hopefully I can get some information about our grant for the second day. So, that's it.
What was the date for the second? April?
April 14th.
Item number 5, reports and correspondence. We'll start with the monthly investment report.
In your packets this evening was the monthly investment report. It has the cash account as of December 31st, 2021, that the treasurer prepared for you, as well as the investments for January that are in the Harleysville Savings Bank or Harleysville Bank, for the capital reserve, sewer capital reserve, sewer managed and electric. I will bring to your attention, as you can see, it seems a lot of loss. You might feel like $28,000 is a lot of loss. I do keep in touch with, Michael at Key Bank, and $28,000 is not really a lot of loss. It wouldn't be worth changing or switching anything up. If something does come up with big loss, he will let us know, and we can make those decisions moving forward if we want to move something around. So don't be alarmed that $28,000 is a lot. Is there any questions on that report? Well, I can keep moving along for the monthly EIT and LST. Okay, great. So for the monthly EIT and LST, just wanted to bring to your attention that, month end in February was, 69,148 for, EIT. So that brings our year-to-date total 85,236.83, which is in the ballpark of what we have had in, the previous years, 21, 20, and, 2019. I will say, it's only a couple days into March, and there is, a lot more stuff coming in through Berkheimer, through the website of payments and stuff, so I expect March to be, fairly high as well. So it seems like we're on track, to, meet our budgetary items for EIT. And for, LST, for the month end in February was 9,334.70 to bring your year total to 9,666.84. And again, that seems very on track with what we had in 2021, and actually a little bit higher from 2020 and 2019. So I hope to see the numbers still climb again in March, just as with the EIT.
Monthly year-to-date report.
So this monthly year-to-date report is just a quick snapshot of your revenues versus expenses for the month. So we're going to keep working on this and working to make it something, a little bit more detailed, but not too detailed. There is a report that Diane and I have been working on specifically for budget, finance, and labor that is line item by line item of what revenues and expenses that we have. But for the packets, we were looking to keep it short and simple, to kind of keep council and the mayor on track to understand what revenues we're spending and what revenues were coming in and what expenses we're spending, and trying to keep a total, just so we can see where we are in our budget.
Could we get budget figures in there too?
Yeah, I had
Just
talked.
have a metric to see where we are.
Yeah, so there's a little bit more detailed report that we've created off of Edmunds that I'd like to share with Budget, Finance, and Labor, to see if that specific type of report is something they would want to see in this packet. It's very detailed and kind of a little bit, I don't want to call it messy, but it really digs down deep. Or if we can just say where we are at budget-wise, and maybe I can have her have something in here at the bottom with like, hey, our budget is, 8.1 million, we've spent this much out of it, to kind of make it a little bit more transparent, but not so, I'm afraid if I put so much in here, it's gonna get lost. That's my only fear with finances, though. Anyone at any time can see what's going on, I need to put in here and we get lost. So I'm trying to make it simple, but detailed enough, but I can talk to her about
Just
adding a budget
single
number.
line, or
Yep.
just a single line, just for this report, so we can have a metric to see how we're doing.
Sure.
Yeah, it's complicated because the budget's based on a yearly amount, it's not broken down by month, so that's where it gets more complicated, so to see where we're at month by month, but let's, if we put the total down, you know, maybe we can just average it out by month and kind of see where that is,
Yeah.
and see where that leads us, so.
Sure.
It won't necessarily be an accurate reflection per se, because we're gonna have we have different spending months, like I said, we don't spend the same amount each month, that might help kind of see where we're at.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be a little bit more open and transparent of where we are at, even if it's January of this year, instead of waiting until September and October and kind of think, hey, this is where we are and this is where we think our budget should be.
Right.
If we kind of are like, wow, you know, July was really high, why? You
Mhm.
know, or maybe we can do some troubleshooting before we get into the deep weeds of the budget season.
Right,
So
right.
I think if we add, as you said, maybe a line item that says a budget, yeah, and I'll try to work with Diane, because as you said, it's kind of based on the whole year, so I'll talk to her and figure it out, and even during budget finance and labor, we can brainstorm ideas. When you see this more detailed report from Edmund, you're like, can you pick this, can you pick that, and create something, so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe what we can do is just say, okay, if our budget's this, and we know it's over 12 months, say, okay, each month is gonna average, it's supposed to be this, and then if we see something that's higher or lower than that significantly, then maybe we question it, you know?
yeah, like, hey, this is what it's supposed to be, averaged out every 12 months, but, oh, it should kind of be around this much, if it's, why was it that high? Would it be, oh, that's because we did the bridge payment, or you know,
Right.
those type of things.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I can work with her and get something a little bit more detailed, but not crazy in the weeds with it.
Right.
No problem.
Yeah, because I think as we talked, it's really just to kind of act as a flag if we saw something unusual, you know,
Yeah.
going forward. So I think maybe we can start that way, and then, like I said, we can adjust as we go along.
Okay.
You guys, if everyone thinks that would be a good way to do it.
Sure.
Especially from our retired accountant to my left, who knows these things, so. All right, police department report?
Okay, just for our hiring update, hopefully our word conditional will come off of the offer next week, and it'll be a full offer for the young lady that, hopefully will be badge number 72 of our department. And regarding the Edgewood Drive traffic study, the one thing, the 18 vehicles out of the 5,000 that were above the 41 mile per hour threshold, one thing to keep in mind with that is, every now and then we do get anomalies. You never know if it's a bird that has set it off, so that could always spike it. It could also be emergency response vehicles that are going a little bit faster to either stop a vehicle or get to the other side to do what they need to do. So, doesn't necessarily, we don't know who does it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's somebody that's doing it just for the joy of speeding down the road. So, yeah.
Good clarification.
Other than
Diane?
that, it's been really quiet. So.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I did have one question. When we talk about selective enforcement, what defines selective enforcement?
Sure, so if for issues like Edgewood, if we found that there had been an issue there, someone would have been able to tuck either into a driveway, someone that allows us to sit there, or we could tuck over where the park is. We sit there and we start monitoring traffic. So when you see the police car sitting up with Brooks Instruments, or wherever it is around town, and they're running their VASCAR unit, which is what we do for our speed timing device, that's what we call selective enforcement. Usually we try to target areas that are more problematic than not. So Brooks Instruments is always one area, because of course West 5th Street's a nice straightaway that people can wind up on. Sitting up near the post office to monitor the truck traffic, that type of deal. So when an officer's stationary and we're actually targeting a specific infraction, in this case of either speeding or the truck violations, we call that a selective enforcement.
Okay, all right. Question for Lieutenant James? Fire department report? I don't know if you have anything.
So though there is no physical fire department report, I wanted to introduce you to Butch Staley, who is the Vice President of the Hatfield Volunteer Fire Company. If you've noticed, he's been coming to our meetings. He's coming as he's a borough resident, but is coming as a representative for the fire company to our meetings when he's available to make it. So if you have any questions about the fire company, anything that's going on, he would be more than happy to answer them. And if he can't, he will take it back to Chief or Dean Miniger, the president, and we can get an answer for you. So that's why he's been sitting at the meetings, and, just glad to have him. I like having a representative from the public safety aspect of, the police and fire attending our meetings.
Which one, stand and give a speech for us, or?
Not a speech, but I'm Bruce Staley. I'm a 20-year borough resident, been a member of the fire company for 13 years and vice president for the last 8. As you know, the previous mayor was here for a long time, longer than I've even been living in the borough. And we always had a very close relationship with the borough through that. And one of the reasons that we asked me to start sitting here is that we want to make sure that we remain open and accessible, to make sure that we continue to have a very solid relationship with the borough and the mayor. First couple of meetings I said, and I didn't really want to say much because I realized I've been remiss in 20 years and I've never actually attended any meetings, so I just wanted to see the lay of the land and see how things were put together. Now, I'll definitely be here, try to be here for everyone, for the borough, working meetings and trying to make other formal meetings if I can as well. Just make sure that we have someone here that if you have questions, we can have someone ask.
Appreciate it. Any questions?
Thank you for your service, for your years of service.
It's one of those things, once you start, it's hard to stop.
I will add, I met with, Dean and, Chief Sherlock, it was February 11th, around there. We had a nice, probably 2-hour sit-down meeting. Just spoke about and asked them if they had any needs from us, if there was anything we could do for them. We talked about, their needs for just volunteers. We talked about their budget and their expenses for updating equipment and those type of items. I did express that council and mayor would like to come for a tour, and they're actually working on, him and Dean had said they think it would be better if you guys came during a practice session, so you could actually see something in action and see something cool. So they're gonna decide what fits into the schedule. Maybe they'll cut up in a car while you're there, or they're working on a burn building facility that they're going through the process with right now. So they do know you wanna come visit, they do know you wanna meet, and they just wanna, it'd be cool to show you what they do. You know, I think sometimes if you don't see it up close, you just hear the sirens go off or hear the truck going by, you don't actually realize like the service that they do for the community, so they just wanted to share that with you. So that is in the works, and when we have a date, I'll let you guys know.
EMS report?
So this is a new report this year from the VMSC. They have a new chief, Shane Wheeler, and he has decided that he'll try to get a monthly report out, just as, you know, the police do for every municipality and the fire does for every municipality. He is making an effort on his behalf for the VMSC to get a report out to every municipality. So you should be seeing this, hopefully monthly. It might take a while, he said he was still working on the program. There were some things he wanted to tweak, but I think it just gives a really good overview, especially when we get police and fire. Now you have ambulance and emergency services response. You can kind of see what calls are coming into the borough, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take those back to him.
Sounds like, I think it's a nice little something. Public Works, Mr. Steve.
Well, we already talked all about the outage that we had on 21st. Is that the big one that we had?
22nd?
Um,
What happened?
Yes, it happened, I'm trying to forget about it. So yeah, like Rich, said, I mean, I think we were able to get the majority of power restored as quickly as possible, to as many people as possible. And this is one of those outages that kind of reassures the sectionalizing fuses that I pushed during budget discussions last year, which we have been working on at this point. In a situation like what we had, sectionalizing fuses should have protected the entire town except for the one little section. So that's, like I said, that's why I'm pushing to get this done, as quickly as I can. There were a couple other relatively minor outages. One I wouldn't even consider an outage, property on West School Street. It was just a tap coming loose from infection. Once again, of course, at the end of the day, when, nobody wants to stay and do anything, but, we got it taken care of quickly. And the other one was just actually last week with a tree from that ice storm that we had. A tree came down, took down somebody's, water service cable off the house. So we were able to get over there, secure the area, cut the tree off, clear the road and the sidewalk, and reattach the wire to their house. Now, the old Ford F-350 sold on Municipid, and we got $30,100 for that. And we also sold the old paint sprayer for $450. So, in my opinion, a very pretty penny for both of them.
I'll say, because, Jimmy had asked last meeting that, the MSRP sticker price was $37,360 for the vehicle in 2008. What we had purchased the vehicle for was $25,840, not including what Steve calls, some add-ons, a plow or lights or any of those, which probably added to roughly $10,000, So as you just said, I would say you got a really good deal for a 2008, truck, basically paying $35,000 in 2008 and we sold it for $30,000. That just goes to show that they take very, very good pride in their equipment. I can vouch for that.
Continuation from, last workshop meeting with the sanitary sewer project on Orchard and Forest. We're still waiting for the spring and for the ground to fall out to complete the final yard restoration and punch list materials. And, we have started, and actually just on Monday, which may not have been on here, just Monday, we finished the cleaning out of the inlet boxes for the MS4 program. We have to get it, open the frames, shovel out all the leaves, the road grit, trash, whatever's accumulated over the year, and we have to keep track of the quantity for the MS4 program.
Is that quantity of weight that you provide?
And there's a lot that has to go into that too, because you have to determine how many days it's been sitting, during that time that it's been sitting, what the weather conditions were like, so you can try to gauge whether when load goes to the dump and it gets weight, was that a dry load, was that a wet load, all your weight's based off of that. So we try to let it sit and, we have to pick the trash out of it, just be, good Samaritans.
Actually, I have a couple questions. The electrical outage at the residence, that being shown up there, if wires come down, residents are responsible for certain things, right?
Correct.
So what is a resident responsible for when that happens?
You're gonna get a good idea about that next week when we have our utilities committee with the presentation.
Okay, I can wait.
No, I can go into detail. So, it's a lot easier to describe with the presentation I did, but basically what we call the attachment point, the weatherhead, and the service cable. The attachment point is where our overhead wire goes from the utility pole and attaches to the house.
Okay.
That's the customer's responsibility. The weatherhead is what protects weather, rain, snow, ice, from getting inside the service cable. The service cable is what goes from the weatherhead and attachment point down to the meter stand.
Okay.
That's all customer's equipment. We own what we call the triplex wire, which goes from the utility pole to the house, and the meter itself. That's our ownership.
What's the insurance claim from the homeowners?
I had spoken to the homeowner, and, they would be responsible right now for the bill for the temporary replacement as well as the bill for the permanent replacement. Once we have those, I'm submitting them to the homeowner, and if they would choose to go through their homeowner's insurance, they could. If not, they're responsible for the bill to be paid back for the borough. Depending on the amount of money, we have offered payment plans to residents before, just because if it's thousands of dollars for a repair, depending on the repair, I don't believe this one will be, but if it is, we've offered payment plans for them, if they can't go through their homeowners, or if they just don't have the funds upfront.
And this outage that, or this incident that we had was actually very similar to the one we had last month on Union Street. Very similar, except there was no tree involved, it was just the attachment point itself came loose on the house. And the whole triplex and the service wire came down, all still connected, all still live, and crossed Union Street. And for once, a tractor trailer stopped and saw the issue and called it, I believe the tractor trailer driver called it the police department. So, it's not uncommon, but it's not very, frequent that it happens either.
So the other question I had was, that, spillage that we had on Farview, is that all been taken care of, any questions from DEP, or is there anything else we need to do about?
DEP is still in the process of handling the situation. I know the remediation company was out, they cleaned up the roadway and whatever was on the roadway. They also did a excavation of the contaminated area in the ground, on the property owner and the neighboring property. I believe at this point, they did their excavation, they're monitoring it to make sure they don't have to excavate any more ground. And assuming that that's it, it's just a matter of remediation now, which would be adding soil, seed, and straw.
How long does that, monitoring go on for? Is it a few months or just weeks?
She said, a very, very long time. That is what Ms. Klasky had said, and Steve
Very
just said.
scientific.
Yes, yeah, she just said it's multiple test digs that they have to do, so they'll dig down a little bit, test, then they'll dig down further, test, dig down further, then, fill back in, see that, as you said, but she said it will take several months to get the process of multiple digs, because they have to be spread out over a certain period of time. I guess this, if it saturates and spreads, I'm not 100% sure, but, she is going through her homeowner's insurance, and the, neighbor as well, so I believe it will be fully covered, but she made it seem like there was gonna be no summer in her yard, like, that it would take at least through the summer to go through the process.
I would imagine they do like core samples periodically in different spots.
Yeah.
To see if it's spreading or if it's still being contained in that one area.
And they did say the good thing about the timing of when it happened was the ground was frozen. So it was less of a chance for it seeping into the ground. Now, I mean, that was good, but with the ground frozen, it also meant runoff on the streets. So,
Honestly, if that was into a leaking tank, has the tank been removed or marked in some way so that cannot happen again?
Yes, I believe that the way the fire marshal described it to me was the, valve on the bottom of the tank was actually left open, and I don't know if that was from the previous owner or not. So all he did was go and close the valve and marked it so that it can be a decision on moving forward. The neighbor had said they believe that it's in bad condition, but it's really not. It was just a leak because it was open. So I think it would be the homeowner if he chooses, I don't think DEP will make them remove the tank because it was just leaking because somebody had left it open previously.
Those are the questions I have. Anything else for Mr. Stevens? All right, we'll get to the engineering report.
Chad's engineering report was in your packets for review. I'll just highlight a few items. Steve spoke about the orchard and forest project. So we're waiting on, submittal for final payment and some punch list items for that. I will say the Broad Street, storm sewer and North Main Street storm and sanitary, sewer project. Right now, we're still through the process of investigating the utilities. What we've come to find is Steve has to do some work with Public Works to get some televising done, and we're waiting for a survey to be done on a property on Little Broad, Little Broad and Broad, I guess. And then North Penn Water did come out and did mark their utilities, so we're able to televise them. Once we have all of the stuff done on our end, we will be putting the package together and we'll be putting it out to bid. So I think that once we get these few last minute things kind of tied up, it's gonna be a really big step for the borough to put this project together and put it out to bid. Steve and I were talking today, this will probably be, second biggest project that Hatfield Borough has done in the past 10 to 15 years. You know, I think since the downtown revitalization was a fairly large project besides this municipal building. So I think it's going to, help a lot of residents in the long run, and just looking forward to getting the project started. I wanted to bring to your attention that Chad did submit the annual Chapter 94 report to HTMA. That is just his review of, like, the flows, it's his review of what, connections we had hooked up to our system, to just what they can submit to DEP. Chapter 94 was brought up when we were talking about the I&I ordinance, and we enacted the I&I ordinance. It just is something that DEP requires, HTMA, since they basically get all of our, flow. Chad fills out this report, so that was submitted, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Were there any specific questions about Chad's report? Okay. He does a very good job. Very detailed.
That's, engineer too. Zoning officer, building code and property?
The zoning officer report, the only thing I want to highlight here besides what he highlighted is, fire safety inspections have started. So Katie has, done a great job of getting all the notices out to residents and business owners. Payments have started to come in, so once the payments come in, she lets Bob know, and then Bob has started already to schedule and complete fire safety inspections. So we are in that process. That isn't started. You may or may not see an uptick in billing because of that, but right now, he hasn't had to put in any extra hours or bring anybody in. I would say maybe possibly later in the spring and the summer, when people, you know, I think they're due, the first round is due the end of April, without going into penalty. So most of the time it's spring and summer where we get a lot of inspections going on, you may see an uptick in billing.
Glad to see what's going on. Fire marshal, full advisory, any updates?
I spoke to, Diane this evening, just because Caitlin's on the pool advisory, and, I had reached out and she had said that she's now the secretary and that they're starting meetings and that she will give us a full report of what is going on at the next meeting.
Manager's report?
My report was included in the packets. I'll just highlight a few items. Wanted to bring to your attention that I spoke to SEPTA roughly 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. They are currently working on a long-term lease agreement. They are going, Dave Doler, who we've been working with for the past several years on this lease agreement, is retiring, so he's trying to get it wrapped up before he retires. Wrapped up meaning send it to Kate so Kate can review it. So we're in that process now. Hopefully within the next few weeks, I'll reach out again just to make sure and try to get that over to Kate so she can review it, and then she'll make any suggestions, and then we can have council review it and move the process forward for anybody if we want to rent out this old Salters property or the SEPTA lot.
Any, potential changes in the cost or anything like that?
No, Yeah, he did say that, because it's been so long, the property would have to go through appraisal again. So they'll come out and have the property appraised, because I believe it might have been, if not 3 years ago, if longer. Yeah, then we did the appraisal, but how they were going to structure the lease agreement was very similar to what it was previously, which was incentives for us to upkeep the property and incentives for us over a long period of time. So, maybe smaller costs up front, until we get a tenant in, and the tenant can make up for the rent that we'd be paying SEPTA, very similar to what we have now.
Any other interested parties in it? Have you had any more communication?
Not since the end of last year, the same parties that were expressed interest previously. He did suggest that there's, a gentleman that was working on the Sellersville. He's kind of like a developer that they had hired to kind of market the property for them in Sellersville, maybe Percy as well. He had stated that, you know, you kind of just start to think about what you want to see long-term there and where you want your downtown to be, because that's gonna be like a destination spot, is how they're trying to like market it. So kind of have ideas or think of things you want to see in your downtown as maybe like a destination spot. And think of like, you know, when you're going through a comprehensive plan or those types of things, like what do you see in 10 or 15 years for downtown to look like? That might be a tenant that you could see if they were interested, though we would have to go through the bidding process.
So it might be a good idea also to have the HEROC committee talk about it, so that everybody, the business community is aware that we're gonna have this opportunity to rent out the old station, you know, and maybe they have friends or other people that wanna come into town and be a good spot, you know. Try to get the word out there, because it's acceptable rent to us, and then it's our job to find a tenant to make it work.
An update on 2021 projects, just wanted to highlight that the CMAQ grant, I know everybody talks about that, that's a synchronization grant between us and Hatfield Township. I spoke to Anton on Friday, I believe, or I guess it was Thursday last week, and they're still in the process of, everything's connected, they're just waiting it to go to the PennDOT system. If you see some backup, they're going through different like testing phases, and so sometimes it might seem like there's not a backup on Main Street at Giant, but then sometimes when you try to get out of Giant, there is a backup. So it's just, they're trying to get it all worked in with their system, and then eventually get our system hooked up, which we have cameras for here, which will be at the intersections. So he said he would reach out to his contact with the grant at PennDOT and, get us a date of when we can get our cameras up and installed as well.
Yeah, they just think about the backup, sometimes it's the opposite direction, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see that, right? So you realize that you did too.
Yeah, and sometimes it just seems very random, and I'm like, oh, maybe they changed the settings today, that's all I can think of. For 2022, we have our ADA and curb ramp project, pre-bid on March 9th, and then our bid opening on March 23rd. The roadway resurfacing project, we're working on the bid package. I would expect us to make a motion to advertise, either, the end of, maybe in March, but I'll talk to Chad, possibly in April, so that'll be coming up in the spring to advertise to get that project moving. The CTP Firehouse Flasher Grant, we're just waiting on, again, PA1 calls and for utility locations and the arrival of the 30-foot mast arm that had to be bumped up from 25. So there's no date of start right at this time, but we're still waiting on those to arrive. And the MTF CTP crosswalk grants, we're waiting on DCED as Jason and I signed the final agreement. We're just waiting for the hard copy. Once we have them, we'll work with McMahon and get a design, a more formal design submitted. The design that you saw was basically just a piece of paper with a line across it saying this is where the crosswalk's gonna be. So it has to be more detailed and more scoped out, so we'll work on that process moving forward. The AMP behind the meter peaking project, it's March 2nd, so obviously we didn't hit the winter peak in February. Last that we talked, Steve and I talked to Willie at AMP, basically PP&L received the testing results and said no, that it wasn't good enough. So they're going back and continuing to do testing. While this is going on, Steve and Power Secure are working to get everything done. You know, so it's not gonna be the borough that's holding up this project. Everything will be done between Car and Duff and Power Secure. So as soon as PP&L gives us the green light, the project can be put online. So we're just waiting for that. Some, a public information officer update that was attached in your packets. Same with the PMEA Livewire, which is the newsletter. And just wanted to highlight that training's being offered in the East and West for electric. So PMEA is really working hard to offer electric training for linemen. Hopefully we'll get some ground hands training, because that would be beneficial to have Del Borough, because we don't employ linemen. But members pay, you know, fees for PMEA, so we want to try to use some of those dues to and get line work and do some training. So I think there's a really good training program that's being developed and it's gonna, kick off this spring. Quickly, some items of interest, if you're interested in attending the PSAB conference, let me know, the registration, is now open. As of today, I know, Larry and myself will be attending. The Next Era Conference, Steve and I attended Next Era the beginning of February. It was a good conference. A lot of it was focused on EV cars and carbon emissions and green energy and, lessons from, Uri, the big storm that happened down in Texas, of how you basically need capacity is what you need. If you don't have it, then your bills are gonna be really high in a really big storm, so just kind of lessons. I did pull Tony aside and talked to him briefly if NextEra was still interested in working on capacity and still interested in trying to figure out what we can do. Hillsborough was open to a conversation. I don't wanna shut the door on it because it didn't work out for us or any other municipalities. He said he would let us know. The APPA legislative rally is this week, going on currently. Unfortunately, our calls with Casey and Toomey have been rescheduled, and I am working with, AMP to have, Brian Fitzpatrick come out here and do an in-person, call, or if he can't, then Zoom, come to here instead of us going to DC. So we're just trying to work on that. It just so happened to see that the union was going on, and just things between masking and regulations, and then we just weren't able to meet with them, so PMA is rescheduling that, and when they do reschedule, we'll have Zoom calls with, all three. And if not, then, Fitzpatrick can come here since he's located close. And then, ARPA funds for Montgomery County Recovery. Montgomery County was awarded, $161.4 million. These funds, what they're doing with them is kind of a grant program, but if you have an idea or you have a project that's ready to go and you want the county to look at it or consider the county to spend their money on it, not your ARPA money, they're interested in hearing about it. So, it kind of has to fit into the county comprehensive plan. It can't just be any willy-nilly project. It has to be, they're kind of looking for ones that are already ready and set to go that fit into their comp plan. So that, along with the Build Better America infrastructure law that was passed, came out, and that is a 400-plus page document of, seems like competitive grants. If you're interested in applying for things, there's money out there. Just happens to tie in that Representative Malagary will be out here on Monday to meet with Katie and I to talk about grants. So I'm just gonna think of a bunch of projects that I think that will be good for the borough, some good ideas that are coming down, and apply for the funds. The funds are there, we should be applying for them. So, that's all that I have for, oh wait, I do have one more item in my manager's report I added, that's not in your packets. I did get a call from Aaron in Hatfield Township. They are interested in doing a stormwater feasibility study, and they want to do it with Hatfield Borough. Obviously, that makes sense because Hatfield Township surrounds Hatfield Borough. It's a no-match grant that they'll be going after for the feasibility study. The grant comes from, it's really online gambling money. That sounds bad, but it's a local, I don't know how else to word it. It's online gambling money for your local share. The only caveat for the grant is really it has to be a project that will improve the quality of life for your residents. So that's really the only caveat. The money is online gambling, and we're just gonna apply for it and see if we can get a feasibility study to come in. I think it's good timing from the meeting last week. The call came in, and we know stormwater is an issue, it's gonna continue to be an issue all over the state. So, we'll look forward to getting a letter of support for that and move that project forward.
Is there any way to tie any stormwater issues with the Montgomery County grants that are now, grant money that's now available?
Yeah, there's, they have like a whole section on their website where you can see if your project fits in. So I was gonna talk about stormwater, there's always infrastructure that we can do, but a lot of times there could be, stream clearing or cleaning gets very expensive with like the DEP permits and those things, and that's why it's not cost effective for us to do it at that significant level with, stream bank stabilization, those possibly due to, everybody kinda got a wake-up call during IDA even more than we already have been through the MS4 project. So I can look into if there's some stormwater stuff. I know that the, Build Better America, like the infrastructure law, is a lot of, like transportation, a lot of things like that, but I'm sure something, it's transportation and then it bounces off to a bunch of other stuff, so anything that could address stormwater, I think we could be a good candidate for.
Okay. I also know we've talked in the past, there's, several properties that have those pop-ups in people's yards. We talked about possibly in the future burying those, maybe that would be something we could do as well too.
Yeah.
Some properties that premium here, seem ashamed to waste what little property we have with pop-ups, because that's cheaper for, DOT to do it that way and tear up the property, so.
I'll put both of those on the list.
Okay. Yeah, if money's out there, got nothing to lose.
Yeah, that's why, everybody's just saying it, might as well apply, it's out there.
Mhm. Okay.
And I just thought it was really good timing, he wanted to come in and talk about grants, and just so happened all these things came up, all this, oh, good timing. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments about my report? Okay, great.
All right, item number 7, new business. We have the Hatfield American Legion Memorial Day Parade request.
This is the annual request from the Hatfield American Legion for the Memorial Day Parade. They will start meeting at 8 a.m. as the letter indicates, and 9 a.m. at Memorial Park. They will have the wreath laying ceremony and then parade down Broad Street all the way through the borough into the township and turn on Coppell and end at the Legion. They are requesting that we allow them to do this, which would mean we put it through with our insurance and we do all the PennDOT permits. And not to skip ahead, but going to item number B, this goes exactly with that, with their request that Hatfield Borough, does a resolution which basically honors their request and we close certain borough roads. Even though the roads are state roads, it's a part of the PennDOT application that we have to acknowledge that a parade is gonna be going through our town on roads, and this is just a way to memorialize that. So I was in communication with the Legion, I told them it would be on for discussion this evening, and that it would be on for action at the March 16th, 2022 meeting. And if we move forward, we will pull all permits and the insurance for it.
Your standard every year, except for COVID.
Yes, we've done it ever since I've worked here, and probably previously, we always do the PennDOT permit, and we always get the insurance through Divot.
Will council or any borough, municipal representatives be part of the parade?
Yes, so, that was gonna be my question, if you're interested in walking in the parade behind the borough vehicle that's driven, would like to know sooner rather than later. So in the past, elected officials, including the tax collector, have been invited to walk in the parade, and then we purchase candy, and then candy is thrown out to everyone that sits on the sides of the routes. So if you are around and you're interested, let me know so when I can RSVP that the borough is going to be having a vehicle, which we believe will be our brand new utility body that we got, will be in the parade, and then, however many council members would like to attend as well.
I know I'm part of that, so if we do that, do you wanna coordinate the shirts like we have in the past too, or would it be the same shirts that we've used previously?
So, there are 3 shirts available in the back room that if they're not your sizes, I would need to know if you can take them, that's great. If not, or you already have a shirt, I was pretty sure you did. I was not sure, I thought Larry had a shirt. The other members, you can give me your size and Katie and I will order them immediately because then we have to get them embroidered. And it will be the same flag shirt that we've got in the past. We looked it up online and had the pricing. If the 3 shirts that are back there that were never worn aren't the right sizes. So I think that the flag shirts will be what we would wear. I think that would be great.
All right, item C, special consortium.
So this is, to retain a special consortium council to negotiate the Comcast franchise renewal. Just quickly, Cohen Law Group is a law firm out of Pittsburgh. They specialize in like telecommunication agreements and franchise agreements. We've used them in the past. We've most recently used them for the Verizon franchise agreement. So a franchise agreement is an agreement between the municipality and Comcast, and it allows municipalities to have benefits such as a free cable connection, a PEG channel, that helps you bring revenue in. We currently bring roughly $20,000 from Comcast for our franchise agreement. Our franchise agreement is up in 2023. Cohen, as well as a bunch of other municipalities that were listed in his proposal. So Cohen has reached out to the Montgomery County Consortium of Communities and has offered to represent everybody who's eligible under Cohen, which we did for Verizon. Right now, currently, we are at a 25%. So if you look in the agreement, he lists what it would be if you were a single municipality. It would cost you $7,900 because we're less than $5,000. Right now, there are 13 municipalities, not including Nashville Borough, that have signed up and stated that they were interested in participating in this franchise renewal. So right now, we're at the $5,925, plus at our Montgomery County Consortium of Communities meeting last Friday, or this Friday before, the consortium has provided a $1,000 subsidy per municipality if you sign up to negotiate with this franchise agreement with Cohen. So that would bring us down to $4,925. So if we were interested in participating in this, and you're interested in going in together, which is always beneficial, you get more things, the more municipalities participate. We have to let him know by March 31st, which would just be authorizing us to sign the agreement letter. And if you're interested, I can put that on the agenda at the next meeting. Kate, do you have anything to add?
No, I would say, they make a pitch that you, have more clout and less attorney's fees, and I actually think that's true. You know, I'm not chasing the work away, but I do think it's true that if we go with the group, I don't think they negotiate with us separately, because they know that we would tell everybody else, and they'd all get it. So, I really think this is a pretty good deal, if both municipalities get together and go.
Out of curiosity, do you have any historic figures about how many municipalities participated in the past?
Yeah, so, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can let you know. When we did it with Verizon and we negotiated with Verizon, there were multiple municipalities. And though we all got together, we still get that one-on-one with Comcast, or we get that one-on-one with Cohen. So if we wanted to talk about pole attachment fees, that maybe we want to charge, or we have something different because we own electric, we still get the one-on-one time with Comcast, that our agreement can be a little bit different. But we just do it all as a group because it cuts down like the fees and the cost. But I can let you know how many participated with the Verizon the last time that we did it.
My recollection is 8 to 12.
Yeah, I would-
It's a good number.
Yeah, I was gonna say 10 if I was gonna guesstimate, but I will let you know, we were part of that, yep. I will look into that. I'll let you know.
Is there anything specifically that we want to specify, that might be unique for our situation, given the fact that we've got electric tubes and there are poles for electric?
Yes, Kate and I had discussed, the general, like, free cable that we get, the general, PEG channel,
Internet.
yeah, internet,
Firehouse and stuff.
right, we talked about that. We did have a conversation, through email or offline about, pole attachment fees, and I think that's something we'll have to look into.
Let's see if they use our poles or not. You know, there is new legislation now in Harrisburg, if you remember, we passed, the ordinances to go with it, might limit us on that, but if they're using our poles, that's extra. Like, Abington doesn't have that, if they're part of the group, so we would need to call it out and ask for that. Somebody else has an idea, you know, let Jamie know. I went and looked back at the old Comcast and Verizon agreements, and saw the free internet connections, you know, at this building, Public Works, and the firehouse, and stuff like that, you know, so, stuff like that. They also offered us some, you know, channels, if you wanted to have, you know, like, remember, people don't do it that much anymore, but in the beginning, people would have their Spur meetings on cable,
Dedicated channel.
a dedicated channel where they could get it, and then if you weren't having a Spur meeting, maybe the school district would use it and stuff like that.
Yeah, we still have a peg channel, but it's kind of, as they had said, it's great to have, but they are going out of style. Nobody really uses them anymore. But if we already have it, we could always just keep it in, and we already have it there to give it to us. So those things, Kate and I will work with, if council agrees on the March 16th meeting to move forward with going. Kate, if you have any suggestions, Kate and I will take it to, Dan and Phil at Cohen Law Group, and we'll work on getting something that's all together, but we'll also have our separate stuff because we don't know Ledger.
The interesting idea would be to see if they can offer free internet to maybe some residents who are in need. I don't know if that's something we could ask for.
We could ask.
Yeah, and I know and I think it was during COVID, Comcast was one that came out that was like internet for all or a sense, and it was during that they were offering their internet services, especially because people were out of work and people weren't leaving and things, so I think that's a good idea. Doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
I'll mark that down on my list, I'll add it to the folder.
Right. Interestingly, some years ago, I talked to the Norristown Public Library, and their internet, you had to schedule it, was that popular with the people who lived in Norristown? The reason was they were all looking for jobs. So, I mean, it might be something we think about to offer someplace in the borough, at the firehouse, or here, or somewhere else. You know, if it's here, that could be a person can sign up for, I want it from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, or whatever.
And Kate, regarding the agreement, you didn't see anything in there that will cause you to get any kind of concern?
No, I read it, it was pretty standard.
There's no more new business, how about old business? Ordinance 545 out of 90?
All right, so let me explain this. You do. The version that was in your packet was almost right, but not quite. Like, what's going on, Larry was at the planning commission, and he knows that the changes the planning commission asked for, we actually had made already. But when we sent the ordinance from my office to the borough and cleaned it on the way, cleaned the attachment, some of the redlining disappeared. So long story short, the way the ordinance works is outdoor dining is permitted all year round without the temperature, okay? As long as you're not in a public right of way and as long as you don't have live entertainment. And we're talking outdoor dining has to be connected to a tavern or a restaurant. You can't just, set it up at your house or something, right? This is in the core commercial district. Then by conditional use, you can ask for live entertainment, okay? Or, the other thing that you could have by conditional use was, live entertainment's the big one. And, on the sound issue, let me just hit that one first. Okay, I put in 70 decibels at the nearest residential line. Under no circumstances may sound at the nearest residential property exceed 70 decibels, okay? So they have to come in and have conditional use for either an outdoor bar, live entertainment, live music, where if it encroaches on the public right of way or sidewalk. Doesn't happen very much in Hatfield Borough, but, Village Firehouse was not used one time for a restaurant or out front there. That, they would have to ask your permission for that, because you, as borough council, would have to weigh the public's right to walk down the sidewalk versus their right to have people sitting out there, at tables. So basically, they're allowed to have outdoor dining by right. And, but if they wanna have live entertainment or, encroach on your public right of way, then they have to come in and get conditional use. And that's where they would come in and have a hearing in front of this borough council. And you could grant it with conditions, like one night a week you can have live entertainment, or only Saturday nights or Thursday nights or whatever it is, or something like that. So, that's the basic size of it. It's also been advertised at least once, it was in the paper yesterday, and it's gonna be in again next, Tuesday, so that when we get to the regular meeting, it'll be ready for a public hearing. Bringing a court reporter, because it's a zoning ordinance, if you never wanna have a fight later on, and not know what was said at the public hearing. Okay? That's basically it. Anybody wants to read the one you got tonight? The little February 22nd red, but the one you got tonight should have everything in it correct.
So two questions on the conditional, we can, when someone comes in for that, we can define what that time period for that conditional use is too, I'm assuming?
You can, although in general, a conditional use is granted. I mean, you don't put something in your ordinance unless you're intending to grant a conditional use. And most zoning of all kinds, variances, all that stuff, conditional use runs with the property. So if, for example, the tavern owner were to sell the property, the next guy would be able to use it in accordance with the same conditions. Here would be a condition, suppose Mr. Weimer comes in and says, I only want to do this Saturday night, okay, you're limited to Saturday night. Let's see how it goes. Because if we get complaints from the neighbors, you know, then we might not allow it or something like that. And so by time limit, to see how well it works would be a good idea.
Okay.
But that's what the 70 decibels is supposed to help. So, right there.
Yeah, and there were several, and I think it's, I'm not seeing it in this one, but I know I saw it in the previous version where it talked about, noise that wasn't disturbing neighborhood properties.
Right. The outdoor dining by right has a noise component to it, but it's, you're only supposed to have like relatively quiet, you know, entertainment, I guess is what you call it. Low-level recorded music will be permitted, up on page 2, M1. Low-level recorded music will be permitted if sound cannot be heard beyond the property line unless conditional use approval for live entertainment is obtained under 2109. So if you just want to do it by right, you can't have a live band and you have to keep it quiet so that nobody can hear it beyond the property line. But if you want it to be louder than that, you're gonna have to ask for permission, and Borough Council gets the chance to think about it and see whether it makes sense or not. We're small, most of our commercial, places in core commercial have houses not too far away. So, where we have to balance the needs and desires of the business community with the needs and desires of the residents.
Hey, I wanna step back for just a minute, give a little clarification. Okay, let's say we grant conditional approval for live music to the current owner.
Right.
2 years from now, he sells the property to somebody else. Okay? If that property is sold to somebody else, does that condition still exist for the new owner? Or do they have to come back to the borough council and say, hey?
It exists for the new owner, because conditions like that run with the land.
Okay.
And actually, you probably couldn't sell it if you limited to the current. In other words, a buyer would be afraid he wouldn't get the same, right.
Yeah.
So it's gotta run with the land as opposed to the owner. Now, a different way to do it would be to say, well, we'll grant this conditionally for 1 year, or 2 years, or whatever, with an automatic renewal unless there's a complaint. You know, that would be another way to get it, so you can see how well they took care of it. But then we have to, let's say we have to write the conditions well. The other thing is, since we picked 70 decibels, we're gonna have a way to test that, standing in somebody's residence. There used to be little machines, I think you could probably get a half or something.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
but it has to be
Now,
calibrated.
So you could probably get an app on your phone. Right, and test that. You know, you have to be standing out there. That would be important, because otherwise, you wouldn't be able to bring a code enforcement action. Yes, we gave you permission for outdoor entertainment, but we told you it had to stay below 70 decibels, and here it is. We're gonna approve.
The code enforcement officer would be responsible for enforcing.
Yes, code enforcement officer would do it, but the complaints are gonna go to the police. They always do.
We used to have it calibrated. I think Lieutenant Schmitz was the last person that did it. There were all kinds of caveats that it had certain training, and there's a whole, what
Right.
things you have to do.
So it's on the police to do for.
We we don't do it, no.
No,
That's
you're
gonna
gonna
be
get
code
the
enforcement.
complaint.
We'll get the complaints and we'll turn it over to you.
Right. Now, if it only happens once, if you have a particularly loud band, we're not gonna catch it. You know, but if it happens once, and then we station somebody at that neighbor's property the next Saturday night, you might catch them. If as somebody says the last public meeting, it's always noisy, okay, we can catch you then. You know? But I mean, I think what we're trying to do is, balance the needs of the business community. People have gotten used to eating outdoors, especially with COVID, and the needs of the residents. And I would say there are boroughs right here in Montgomery County that actually close the main drag, because that's where the restaurants are. For us, it would be Broad probably. You know, and maybe on a Saturday night, everybody eats dinner in the street, you know? But this does not allow that. You'd have to have conditional use to do that, or some borough-wide event, you know, and then talk to PennDOT about closing the roads or something. Basically it.
I'll add, if Larry or Michelle wants to chime in again, that the planning commission met and spoke about this on Monday. Their recommendation was to move this forward, and, for Borough Council, they did ask the question, which Kate just addressed, which we spoke on the phone about, which, does the condition go with the property, or does it go with the owner? You know, like, what does it? So I think she clarified that for everybody.
There's no problem. That actually makes sense.
It does, and I'm assuming if, for example, what they were using the property for changed, then therefore it would be null and void at that point.
Right.
Because you're changing what was already approved for the property.
Correct, and that's why I also put in there, it has to be connected to a restaurant or tavern. I don't think we want to have all by itself, outdoor dining, live entertainment. It's like, you know, it has to be connected to something, you know, got a kitchen, plan to do about it.
And Larry, you have parties out back in the house all the time.
Yeah. Well, we used to have the Egg Festival, right? We still the Egg Festival? But that was a special permission to have the barbecue eggs out there and so that was special permission, that wasn't, and every Saturday night thing.
For those that were wondering, yesterday at the planning commission meeting, that 70 decibels is, if you were running your washer or your dryer. That's how loud it is. Kate had done research, and we had samples here if you want to look at it. If you would go to 80, that is, potentially hearing damage. So it's 70 fit right in with the shit that we started about. Somebody asked,
Yeah, Google it, read a few articles.
Yeah, 80-85 typically you have to have your equipment.
Right.
In a work
It
environment.
said that, in your work environment, you have to have ear protection. So I thought 70 sounded right, I mean, if somebody else feels differently. Kind of like the 6 cats, why'd you pick 6? I don't know, I did a little research and it looked like a good number. But it's your choice, obviously,
Yeah.
so.
Well, and what people don't know is the decibel scale is not linear, so it's exponential.
Right.
So, you know, 40 is a dishwasher that's very quiet percent, so 70 is still pretty quiet. 80, 85 is significantly louder than 70.
I was surprised by that, that
Yeah.
80 was so much louder than 70, I really was. That is what the orders.
Yeah, it's intuitive, it's not intuitive because you think 70 to 80, you think it's this linear scale, it's not linear.
Right. So that'll be on for your next time.
Next item will be action items, which I don't think we have any tonight. And then last would be motion to adjourn, so can I get a motion to adjourn?